Well, as I've been telling you, it's budget day here at Queen's Park, and a big surprise in these pages with free pharmacare for children and youth under the age of 25. And joining me now is the architect of this budget, Finance Minister Charles Sousa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, the one thing, and I know, and I'm sure you're very happy, and after several budgets that you've done, this is the first budget that you have been able to balance. You've been saying you could do it for the last couple of years. You've reached the target. It is balanced. One thing you don't want to talk about as much, though, is the debt. It's ballooned to over $300 billion. There's a lot of spending in these pages. Why aren't you attacking that debt and bringing it down?
Well, the first order of business to control debt is to balance the budget. And we're balancing this year, next year, and the year after that. And the choices you make with regards to debt is your debt as a function of GDP, and that's improving because we're growing our economy, making ourselves stronger.
But you're paying $12 billion in interest rate just to service that debt. That's a lot of money. In fact, more money than you're paying on other major programs.
The budget is $140 billion. And the interest on debt as a function of our budget is only 8.4% compared to what it used to be 20, 30 years ago at 15 and 16%. We're managing our interest by locking them in over long periods of time and ensuring that we don't have commodity or the interest rate risk. But more importantly, 100% of every dollar we borrow is going to build new schools, new hospitals, new bridges and roads. And those are the choices we're making to make ourselves prosperous in the future. It also generates hundreds of thousands of jobs every year.
Okay, Minister, let's talk a bit about what this budget means for Toronto. I don't think it has done anything to appease Mayor John Tory, who's still seething about the fact that the Premier backed out on a plan for him to go ahead with road tolls. He was expecting more for the city in this budget. For example, housing, social housing. Toronto Community Housing is in deep trouble and will have to close many of its buildings, 400, by next year. And he's deeply disappointed there isn't more money for social housing in here. Why isn't there?
Well, let's be clear. We have and continue to support Toronto and all municipalities across the province. But Toronto in affordable housing alone has had $2 billion over the last 3 years compared to the federal government, which has allotted some money, but we have yet to see what that will be. We're working closely with the federal government to match their capital expenditures as well. Furthermore, we put $500 million more into the budget to support some of the social retrofits, and that's across the province. It'll be a great benefit to Toronto. And lastly, we're putting in over $100 million worth of property to support housing in Toronto specifically. And that too will be a great provider of support. And we recognize that when we do some of these things, providing additional tools to Toronto beyond those other cities, they have at their disposal the opportunity to also provide for more revenue.
All right, Minister, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Thank you very much for joining. Sorry. We're out of time now. I apologize for cutting you off, Minister. I will just end on the note that the Mayor is calling this a missed opportunity, and just before an election, it's probably not the best idea to have the Mayor of the largest city very unhappy with this government. Thank you again for joining us, Minister.